It is 10:57 a.m. and I would like to call to order the teleconference meeting of the Finance-Auditing Committee of Thursday, November 18th, 2021, my son Pat's birthday. Before we begin, please note this meeting is being recorded. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you, and good morning again, everyone. Director Cochran.
Here.
Director Giudice. Absent. Director Grosball.
I'm here, although I'm going to have to get off and come back on, Amaret, just to alert you.
Okay, I'll track it. Thank you. Director Hernandez. Absent. Director Maston.
Here.
Director Theriault.
Here.
Vice Chair Fredericks.
Here.
Chair Rabbit.
Here.
And President Parr.
Present.
Thank you. And also on the line, so just shortly after I called the roll for the committee members, Director Grosball did jump off the line. You are now just the committee. You have 9 members on the line. Also on the line, we have Director Snyder, Garbarino, and Hill. So just wanted you to know that. So I'll confirm staff is still here. Dennis Mulligan.
Present.
Joe Wire.
Yes.
Great. Ava Barr-Furbish.
Present.
Kim Enolius.
Still here.
Great. Steve Miller.
Still here.
Mona Babauta.
Present.
Jim Swindler.
Present.
And Kelly Hopper.
Present.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Also on the line, we have a representative from our auditors, Ide Bailey, and that's Ahmad, and he'll be doing a presentation. So he's also on the line, as well as Ron Downing. So I just wanted to confirm all the staff on the line.
Present.
Thank you.
Present.
Thank you. And that confirms everyone on the line.
Great. Thank you very much. Again, we want to remind everyone to mute their phones until after the staff's presentations, and remember to unmute and identify yourself when we open up for director's discussion. If there are any, the Secretary and I will call on you accordingly. Following our discussion, we will ask for any public comment before moving on. Please follow along by referring to the page numbers located on the bottom of your meeting packet. And Madam Secretary, can you please introduce that first item?
Thank you, Chair Rabbit. Item number 3 is the ratification of previous actions by the Auditor Controller, and that packet of commitments, ratification investments before you and begins on page 3. Leslie Murphy is still on leave, so we do not have a presentation on this item, but Joe Wire is available to answer any questions concerning item number 3.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns for Mr. Wire on item number 3? I am not hearing any, so I think we're all good there. Thank you very much. That concludes the discussion on this item. Before we take our vote, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on item number 3?
We have no speakers for item number 3.
Great, thank you. May I have a motion to approve item number 3 or accept the reports?
I'll move. Cochran.
Thank you, Jerry. And a second?
I'll second. Fredericks.
And I know that Madam Secretary got that, and if she could do a roll
I sure
call.
did. Thank you. Since we are still a committee, I will start with Director Cochran.
Yes.
Director Giudice, absent. Director Grosball is absent. Director Hernandez is absent. Director Maston.
Aye.
Aye. Director Theriault.
Yes.
Vice Chair Fredericks.
Yes.
Chair Rabbit.
Aye.
Aye. And President Parr.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That motion passes with 6 ayes.
Great, thank you very much. So seeing no items to consider under agenda items 4 or 5, we'll continue on to item number 6, which is to approve actions relative to the adoption of the Angel Ferry Fair and amend the master ordinance. The staff report begins on page 23, and Director of Planning, Ron Downing, is here to present the report. Ron, go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Rabbit, members of the committee. This item before you today is a continuation of last month's action where the board approved a demonstration project for the Golden Gate Ferry Service to assume operation of the Angel Island San Francisco ferry route, which is being discontinued by Blue and Gold Ferry. Per the requirements of the rules of the board, a public hearing is required to establish any new fares. That public hearing was held on November 5th, 2021, and we received a good number of comments that I will go into detail in just a second. One of the important distinctions of the Bridge District and Golden Gate Ferry assuming this service is Blue and Gold operated a tourist and sightseeing type operation where people had to buy tickets in advance for a specific day and a specific trip. We are now integrating that ferry service to Angel Island into a transit program offered by the Golden Gate Ferry Service, where we have established fare protocols with discounts for certain users, and we are going to be a little bit different from what Blue and Gold was charging for their service. Our service will be predominantly based on the Clipper Transit Card. I think everybody's familiar with the blue contactless fare payment card known as Clipper. That has certain standard definitions for fare categories that are different from what Blue and Gold used as a private enterprise. In addition, that Clipper card is now available on a mobile app, which expands its availability for people. We have two different fare programs within the Clipper system. We have what we call the stored value fare card, and we have a single ride fare card as defined in the master ordinance, which somebody can buy. It's almost like a paper ticket that you buy from the vending machine for a one-way trip, or you can buy two of them to make a round trip. We're looking at starting this service very soon, and we needed to integrate those fares into our existing fare structure within the Clipper program. So on page 24 of your board item, it shows the different fare categories, the price that would be paid by the user, and then we will be charging half of the park entrance fee each way on that one-way fare. So the table shows you that the adult park entrance fee, for example, is $3. We would charge $1.50 of that each way for adults and $1 of that each way for youth, seniors, persons with disabilities. The fares that we were charging range quite a bit differently from what Blue and Gold charged in some categories. They are in line with what we charge for our current Tiburon ferry service. Again, it was the most expeditious way to integrate this new Angel Island service into our existing fare structure. So as you can see in the table, if you just buy a one-way ticket for an adult, it's $12.50 plus the park entrance fee. If you use a Clipper stored value card or on the app, it's $7.50 plus the $1.50 entrance fee. So it's a substantial savings over what Blue and Gold is charging right now for those categories if you use the Clipper card. Additional discounts are available through the Clipper card for the Clipper Start program, which is for low-income riders. Again, significant savings over what Blue and Gold currently charges. The main distinction is that we offer a youth fare that Blue and Gold doesn't. So there are savings in that category for people between the ages of 12 and 18, where they are eligible for a discount under our fare program that Blue and Gold does not offer. Those riders would be treated as adults under Blue and Gold's fare program. So we put all of this together for the public hearing. We went through a thorough public engagement process. The different notification activities that we conducted are shown on the top of page 25 of your staff report. With regard to the different public hearing notices, legal notices, advertisements, press releases, email blasts, and materials were available translated into several different languages per the district's limited English proficiency plan. The attorneys certified that this activity met the rules of our public hearing process at the November 5th public hearing, and people could comment in several different ways. They could attend the teleconference public hearing, they could email us at our public hearing mailbox, or they could send written comments to the district secretary. We received comment in several different ways, and we do not treat those comments differently regardless of which of those three ways they were received. So people did not have to actually attend the public hearing in order to provide testimony to have their comments received. At the end of business on November 5th, we received 15 different unique comments. 14 were received through the public hearing email, and 3 were received at the public hearing itself. Of the 3 comments we received at the public hearing, 2 of those individuals had already submitted an email that was virtually identical to their verbal comments, and as a result, those comments were only counted once. Appendix A summarizes the comments that we received. 2 of those 15 comments were in support of the proposal that was laid out in the staff report for the public hearing. 8 were opposed to what we proposed for a variety of reasons, some of which were based on incorrect information or a misperception about what the specifics of the proposal were. One of the commenters indicated that they were opposed to any change that would put a private local ferry company out of business, such as Blue and Gold or Angel Island Tiburon, for example. We do not intend to affect the business of the Angel Island Tiburon ferry, and we are not competing with Blue and Gold. They have submitted an application to the CPUC to eliminate that service, and we are stepping in to fill that need in the community to provide replacement service. So there will be no overlap with the Blue and Gold ferry. Another commenter felt that the fares should be self-sustaining and the Golden Gate Bridge tolls should not be used to subsidize this ferry route. 2 other commenters suggested that we should focus on the existing Golden Gate ferry routes and not be taking on new service. So a little bit more detail in terms of staff responses to those comments are provided in Appendix A of your staff report. As I said earlier, there was concern raised about the affordability of the fares that we are proposing, and some of that affordability is definitely addressed by the Clipper Start fares. In addition, people in San Francisco or the North Bay on Golden Gate Transit buses, for example, would receive a transfer credit from our buses or from San Francisco Muni buses to access this new service. The staff report does indicate in Appendix A how the different pricing compares to Blue and Gold. For example, for the adult who uses a stored value Clipper card, the round trip price will actually drop from $19.50 to $18 on the Golden Gate ferry service if these fares are approved by the board. Again, riders between the ages of 12 and 18 currently pay the full Blue and Gold adult fare of $19.50. They would pay $14 on the proposed Golden Gate ferry fares. So all of these fares are designed to make this the most expeditious way of implementing a fare program for the new service so we can start it quickly. Staff is also very clear that we will be reevaluating all of these fares as the service gets underway, depending on what usage we have, where we need to make adjustments. If indeed these fares are deemed too high, we will be coming back. But this is the starting point for starting a fare program very quickly and integrating it into our existing service and fare structure. 2 of the commenters were feeling that we should be expanding service on our other ferry routes before we took on this service. One very important consideration is ridership is very depressed on our other ferry services, Larkspur, Tiburon, and Sausalito. It's down about 85% compared to pre-COVID levels. So in order to minimize our cost expenditures, we have reduced that service to provide service in line with the actual demand that we are seeing. When we see ridership increasing, the district will be looking at restoring service as appropriate to those other routes based on ridership demand. The last public comment that we received was that we should not be using bridge tolls to support this route. Again, we're going to be reevaluating the fares during the course of the one-year demonstration project once we have more information on costs, and fare box recoveries. And finally, the last comment that we received was the person simply wanted more information on the specifics of the proposed fares, and staff sent a response to those individuals. So this new service is estimated to cost the district between $920,000 and $1 million annually. The primary costs are fuel, maintenance, and other costs such as landing fees on Angel Island. We expect that these costs will be offset partially by the fares collected, as I've outlined in the staff report. Whatever the fiscal impact truly is, we will find out more information about that as the service gets implemented and we see what the actual fares paid by riders are. All of this information will be combined in a Title VI equity analysis that is a requirement by the FTA of establishing a demonstration project. We have about 1 year to come back to the board with information as to whether the demonstration project would be made permanent or extended at that time. At that decision point, we would have a Title VI analysis that would look at all of the features of the service regarding equity-based communities. And then the third part of the staff report is Appendix B, which is the actual language that, if approved, would go into the master ordinance for this new service. So that concludes my report, and I would be happy to answer any questions, Chair Rabbit.
Great, Ron. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'll start with one, because as I read the report, which I very much appreciate again, I take it that the one-way fare or ticket fits within our system much better than selling a single round-trip fare, or is that just the way that we go about striking fares in the district?
You can buy it as a one-way or two-way from the machine. It's a paper ticket, and it's the same system we have for Sausalito and Tiburon for years. So if you're a resident and you're a commuter, you have a Clipper card, you pay with that. But if you're, say, a visitor and you ride a bike to Sausalito and take the boat back, you'd go to the machine and you buy this single-use ticket. But you could buy it round trip also. It sells either single or round trip, but beyond that, it's not reusable.
Yeah, no, the only reason I brought it up is, in this case, you're going to an island. Your options are limited for that return trip, and I was just curious if that, just because it fits within the system we have, which is fine, and I think that's fine. I'll look to my colleagues if there's any questions, comments, or concerns from the directors on item number 6. I'm not hearing anyone.
Public comment.
That's correct.
I know David Pilpal would like to speak on this item. Amaret, maybe we can, David, speak.
All right, sure. Let me collect the line. All right, David, are you there?
I am.
Go ahead.
Okay, so thank you. On item 6, the Angel Island Ferry Fare, I support the staff recommendation. If it's not perfect, it's good enough to implement for initial service. I appreciate that staff reviewed and proposed a slightly lower fare than initially sought. On the CEQA reference, let me find that one moment. In the proposed ordinance section 3, it does have language referencing 21080B8 that could also add reference to California Code of Regulations, section 15273. It's not required, but it's duplicative of the same section, rates, fares, and charges. It might be helpful, in addition to the language in here, to have other language above in the 1 through 12 discussion or findings that actually has some language that the fares charged are for the purpose of meeting operating expenses, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's established in section 3, but it wouldn't hurt, in my view, to have it above as well in reference. But otherwise, I think it's fine. Again, good enough for a pilot demonstration service, and let's hope that people ride and see what the actual experience is, and monitor the demonstration project. Thanks very much.
Thank you, David. Amaret, any other members of the public like to speak on this item?
We have no further speakers on this item.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the committee, and if there's no further discussion on this item, this is to approve the actions relative to the adoption of the Angel Island Ferry Fair and amend the master ordinance. And can I get a motion to approve?
So moved, Director Terrio.
I'll second Cochran.
And there's a second in there as well, so thank you so much. With that, Madam Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Thank you. We're voting on item number 6 with a first from First Vice President Theriault and Second Vice President Cochran. I will be doing a committee of the whole vote since I see Director Grosboll has rejoined us, starting with Director Arnold. Absent. Director Conroy is absent. Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosboll.
Yes.
Director Hernandez is absent. Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Meston.
Aye.
Director Melgar is absent. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni is absent. Director Snyder.
Aye. Yes.
Thank you. Director Stephanie is absent. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Theriault.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Aye.
Thank you. You have 10 ayes, and that motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you all very much. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, which is to receive the independent auditor's annual comprehensive financial report for the year ending June 30th, 2021. The staff report on that begins on page 37, and Joe Wire will present this report. Joe, go ahead.
Thank you very much. This is, as mentioned, the annual report. It's the board's outside auditor, and they do produce the data that goes into our annual comprehensive financial report that you have received. I hope you all have received your copy. It is also online electronically. Because this is the board's outside auditor, it's important that you hear directly from them. So Ahmad Garibah is here to talk to you, and so I will turn the report, presentation of the report over to him.
Thank you,
so Ahmad, it's all
Joe.
you.
Thank you, Joe. Governing Board, good morning. This is the annual comprehensive financial report. My name is Ahmad Garibah. We are the independent auditors of the district from Eid Bailey. I just came on this job after partner rotation. I think this is our 4th year in the contract over here doing the audit for the district. The audit is basically 3 phases. The first phase, which is the interim phase, it is a phase in which we review the internal controls and review certain compliance items. We take a look at the manner that you process receipts, the manner that you process disbursements, the manner that you process payroll. We look at the internal controls, and then we wait for management to close the books. And that is the second phase, in which we confirm the balances that are reported on the financial statements. It is basically an affirmation of the financial information that is presented to you by management. We just come after the fact, after they close the books, and we ensure that the numbers that are reported in the financial statements are fairly stated. We confirm your investments and your cash and your debt. We perform various procedures to ensure that these financial statements are fairly stated. The last phase is we work with management on the reporting, ensuring that these financial statements are in compliance with the reporting requirements. The GASB requirements is the standards that the financial statements have to adhere to. And at the end, we issue an opinion on these financial statements as to whether they are fairly stated. And I'm pleased to let you know that we issued an unmodified opinion. It is, in other words, a clean opinion. We had actually no adjustments to the financial statements. And as we looked at the internal controls, also we had no reportable conditions in there. We noted no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the processes that the district uses to process its financial transactions. We I want to thank the team from the Golden Gate, Cody, Patrick, and many of the finance department members over there. When we had always been responded to very quickly, and we were able to get all the financial information that we needed from the district. Very thorough review of the financial statements to make sure that they adhere to the standards. We issued a clean opinion, which is basically an affirmation of the financial information that was presented to you previously by management. We still have one more project there, which is the single audit. It's a federal compliance audit. It is substantially done, but we're still working on it. The district did receive significant amount of funding from the CARES Act, and that is the process that is ongoing right now, and we're completing the audit and should be submitted to you very shortly. And with that, I'll be more than happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you very much for your work. Are there any questions on the audit?
This is Dick Roswell. I do have one.
Go ahead, Dick.
Now, don't laugh at this question. It's been a few years since I've asked it, so I thought I'd ask it again. But as part of your role as the outside auditor, you're verifying that the assets that we show in our books are actually held by either whatever custodial bank it is. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you get confirmations that those assets, you get written confirmation that they're held, right?
Yes, that is correct. We confirmed your investment balances were all confirmed with the custodial of those investments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Anyone else have any questions? I am not hearing any. We thank you for the work. Most of all, we thank Joe and his financial department for the great work going forward. Thank you, Joe, for that. I know that I believe David Piltow wants to speak on this particular item as well. So, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. Let me connect David. David, are you there?
I am still here.
Right.
So I couldn't tell from the top of page 2 in the staff report why we're not referring to it as the CAFR or CAFR anymore. I didn't understand why that might be perceived as an offensive term. Perhaps someone can tell me that another time. The term ACFR sounds more like aquifer, which sounds fine for water agencies. But I guess the bridge does cover the water, so maybe that's okay. I'll keep working on that. ACFR. All right. Anyway, I found a couple of minor league typos. I can discuss those with staff. The only other thing I noticed, pages 75 to 84 appear to span different pages, and the second page doesn't really have a header, and it's not easy to read, and I guess it depends on how it's printed or printed out. Perhaps if those pages could be presented in landscape rather than portrait, it might improve the readability to the reader. Anyway, those are my thoughts, but I appreciate that it's a clean audit with no reportable conditions or material weaknesses. Thanks very much.
Thank you, David. Is there anyone else, Madam Secretary?
We have no further speakers.
Yeah, I was going to call it the CAFR as well, and I held back on that. It's what I'm used to. But we again thank the auditor, and with that, can we go to motion to approve?
Frederick?
Also move.
Got it.
And a second? There's a second in there somewhere, right?
Right. There's a second in there somewhere. I got it.
Okay. And Madam Secretary, with that, can you please call the roll?
Thank you. We're voting on item number 7 with the first from Director Fredericks and the second from Second Vice President Cochran, starting with Director Arnold. Absent. Director Conroy. It's absent. Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice. Absent. Director Grosbol.
Yes.
Director Hernandez. Absent. Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar. Is absent. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni. Is absent. Director Snyder.
Yes.
Yes. Director Stephanie is absent. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Theriault.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Yes, with a thank you to both our staff and the auditors.
Thank you. That's 10 ayes, and that motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you very much. So with that, we'll move on then to item number 8, which is to receive the annual report of the Opeb Retirement Investment Trust Board. The staff report begins on page 39, and Joe Wire will present this report. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you very much, and to the chair on the board. This is, as I said, you're receiving your annual report. This report comes every year from the Opeb Retirement Investment Trust, which the district set up in order to invest funds to cover the costs of future healthcare retiree benefits that it gives to its employees and while they're active and when they retire. The trust charter requires that this report come back from the trust the trust charter that the district set up requires that this report come from the trust to the district once a year. And in this report, the trust discusses any changes to the policy, investment policy, the performance of the vendors that it hires in order to do the investments, and if there was any need to adjust the trust charter. So to just cover those very quickly, the report goes into much more detail, but to cover them very quickly, that there was some changes in the investment policy statement. One was to reduce the discount rate from 7 to 6 3/4, and this is to recognize that across the industry right now, there is a belief that future returns will be a little bit harder to come by than past returns, since we have had such a long road up with the market, and we have such low rates on fixed income investments. This is something that's being done by many of the major pension type investment funds across the country, including CalPERS. Next, there were several other changes. One was to clarify the percentage of asset allocation to alternatives, which is something that as the trust has grown over 100 million, it has moved its investment out into these alternatives, and also the changes fully described the investments that are permitted, and those, for example, like real assets, private debt, and private equity. And again, that's to diversify the portfolio because of the size has grown. This is something that the trust and the trust advisors have been planning since we started this trust back in 2007, once we got to the size where they would make sense to do so. Second, the trust reviewed the investment advisor performance of both the investment advisor and of the custodial bank. Both think they're doing a good job. Performance is discussed in the report in much more detail. They have consistently turned in very good performance, and their customer service is excellent. One note is that U.S. Bank, which is our custodian, did in fact buy part of PFM, which does the investment advisors. They're now owned by the same parent company. Staff and the trust is examining that to see whether or not that is a conflict, and whether we should choose a new custodian bank. If the trust moves in that direction, that will be reported back out to this board in the next report that we have next year. And lastly, the report notices that the charter of the trust does not recommend any changes to that charter. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them now.
Great, thank you, Joe. Any questions for Mr. Wire on this particular subject? We're very quiet today. That's good. The reports are very thorough. Appreciate that. I know that David Philpow wants to speak on this, Madam Secretary.
That's right, and I'm going to connect him right now. David, are you there?
I am. Just very briefly, it may not be directly on point, but I just wanted to reference tomorrow's informational report, which I found illuminating on the differences in employee and employer contribution rates for pensions. That's all. No issue with the OPEB annual report. Thanks.
Thanks, David. Anyone else, Madam Secretary?
We have no other speakers.
Great. And so can I get a motion to receive the annual report of the Opeb Retirement Investment Trust Board? I'll move.
Got it?
We have a motion in there with a second. And Madam Secretary, can you please do a roll call vote?
Thank you. We have a first from Second Vice President Cochran and a first from Second Vice President Cochran and a second from President Parr. Voting on item number 8, starting with Director Arnold. Is absent. Director Conroy. Is absent. Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Yes.
Director Giudice. Is absent. Director Grosboll.
Yes.
Director Hernandez. Absent. Director Hill.
Yes.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar. Is absent. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni. Is absent. Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie. Is absent. Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
First Vice President Theriault.
Yes.
And President Parr.
Aye.
Thank you. You have 10 ayes, and that motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Next on the agenda is item number 9, which is the status report on the fiscal year 21-22 budget. That report begins on page 45. And Joe, go ahead with your report.
Again, thank you very much to the chair and the board. This is our continued vigilance to report out to the Finance Committee on how we're doing with our district's finances, given the difficulty we've dealt with over the last year and a half during the pandemic. So we have made some changes to the attached document that we use to do the tracking, and those changes are discussed in the board report, but I think it's usually easier to just take a look at the tracking report. So if you could turn to page 47, that actually has the changes on it. And the most important point is, of course, the budget still remains balanced. It's just how we're balancing it has changed a little bit. And the fact that we started out, on the upper right-hand corner is the 74, almost 75 million that we saw as a projected deficit on our budget. Then we were using, if you go down the page and stay on the right-hand side, you can see we're using the first tranche of the ARPA funds, which is the last of the 3 emergency funding measures. And we had been using 57 million before. 9 million of that was actually applied once we finished and wrapped up fiscal year 2021, which was the one that ended on June 30th. We used 9 million of that money that year. We were able to bill it. And so now we have the remaining 48 that you see here. We now have, if you look down at the next line, which is line 2 on your chart, those numbers are over on the left side. You can see we're using 24 million from PEPRA, the second tranche. I'm sorry, the second tranche of not PEPRA, ARPA. The second tranche of ARPA. Unfortunately, we're budgeted to use 24 million of that. Unfortunately, that is the money that is right now in some. It's right now the FTA is not approving loans because DOL is not okaying them due to a PEPRA issue. It's an old court case from 2013, which stated that not stated that the court case brought by the ATU International stated that the collective bargaining rights of the unions were infringed upon by the PEPRA law, and therefore it should be held in abeyance, and so that they previous administrations have allowed these grants to be approved anyway. Right now, DOL is reversing its decision to do so, and so these grants are sitting out there. So we were able to get the first tranche of ARPA approved prior to DOL changing its mind. But now that it has changed its mind, we are waiting on the second, along with the rest of the state of California. So it's an issue that the board will be briefed on many times until I'm sure it comes to a decision. Next, the other changes were in the TDA STA funding, which is listed in line 3. Line 3B, we have added because of an arrangement that was made with MTC. They provided us with the second tranche of $44 million and then took back $5 million in line 3B. And so you can see it there as a negative. And that was to ensure that all of the monies in the region were allocated, but some of the money would return to MTC to be allocated again to projects that the region has agreed upon. So essentially, we're just showing that on paper here, so you understand how the budget is balanced. And then lastly, item 4, we update every month. That's the tolls and fares. And as we have discussed, the trend has continued. We have done slightly better on toll traffic than we projected in the budget, and that's why you see a positive number of $4 million. And also slightly better in ferry, but bus is almost just right on what we expected. Lastly, because of the advent of the second tranche of the ARPA funds, which we expect to, of course, work through that court case hopefully in the coming months, that we would not have to use any of the toll carryover funds that we have. And so that's why you see zeros there in line A at the bottom of that use. And if there are any questions, I am happy to answer them.
Great. Thank you very much, Joe. Thanks for your continued diligence on this particular item. Is there anyone who has any questions for Joe on the agenda item? Again, not hearing anyone. And Amaret, I know that David Pilpal also wants to speak on this one.
That's correct. Hang on one second, and I'm going to connect David. Hi there, David. Still there?
I am. Last time for today, I promise. So the PEPRA issue is troubling. In my view, the legislature shouldn't pass new state laws that affect labor prior to meet and confer or satisfying any meet and confer issues. I know that the San Francisco Board of Supervisors doesn't enact anything until the Human Resources Department determines that either there were no meet and confer requests or that requirement was satisfied. I don't understand why the state legislature can pass laws without doing the same. I would assume that other local jurisdictions do it the same way. Whatever. Anyway, from the way Joe Wire explained it, I'm wondering if this issue can be resolved by ATU International withdrawing its letter of objection. If that's the case, that would be fantastic, and perhaps we could encourage our friend Shane to encourage the folks in Washington to do that and make everybody a lot happier. The varying recovery rates in the 3 operating divisions are interesting, particularly bad for bus, good for the bridge, and about right on for ferry. So continuing to monitor those recovery rates. And I'm assuming that the other regular monthly reports on revenue and expense and capital were not here because this was an early month, and we'll catch up next time and get the October and potentially November reports. Perhaps someone can just clarify that. I'm all set. Thank you very much for listening this morning.
Thank you, David. I'll bring it back, and Joe, perhaps you can just touch on that last inquiry that David had.
Yes, absolutely, and I was going to mention that also at the end of the report. Okay. Because of the early meetings in November and also actually in December, you will be receiving the data 1 month in arrears. So in December, you will receive October's data, and then in January, you will receive November's and December's. We will catch up in January. And that is because of the holidays, both in November and December, push your meeting and the mail out dates quite early in the month and close, and then the production of the reports is not able to be done. So this is something similar to what we've done in the past years.
Right. Thank you very much. And we realize that things get pushed around a little bit at the end of the year. So thanks for that. I appreciate that. Again, I'll bring it back to the board and see if there's any further questions for the stats report. And yeah, no actions required on this, right? going through my notes to make sure that that's true. So, Madam Secretary, we already went through public comment, and I believe that brings us to the end of the agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Great. And I just want to confirm with Madam Secretary that item 10 was public comment, but I believe that we've had that throughout. Is that not correct? Yeah.
That's correct. We have, and we had no other speakers besides Mr. Pilpel.
I don't want to jump the gun. Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn, and I think there's a second in there as well.
Yep.
So hearing no objections, that concludes the meeting of the Finance Auditing Committee. Thank you to all my colleagues. It is 11:42. Thanks.